There's something powerful about being able to sit in the middle of noise and not let it move you. See, we live in a time where everybody feels like they have to have the last word, where silence is treated like a confession, and where restraint is mistaken for weakness. But the truth is, silence isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's the ability to hear what's being said about you, to feel the sting of someone's opinion, and still make the choice not to engage in a battle that doesn't deserve your presence. You don't have to show up to every argument you're invited to. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to let your energy be hijacked by things that have no bearing on your destiny. The problem is we think silence means we've lost. We think if we don't speak up, people will believe the lies. We think if we don't defend ourselves, they'll assume the worst. But let me tell you something. People are going to believe what they want to believe, no matter how well you explain yourself. You can pour your heart out, and some will still twist your words. So why waste breath in places where your truth will be mishandled? Why throw pearls in spaces that are committed to misunderstanding you? Wisdom says, protect your peace over proving your point. I had to learn that my voice is too valuable to spend on arguments that won't bear fruit. My voice is meant for building, for speaking life, for declaring God's promises over my life, not for chasing down every rumor that floats into the air. There's a certain dignity in letting your actions speak, in letting time reveal the truth, in allowing God to vindicate you without you having to lift your tongue in defense. That doesn't mean you're passive. It means you've graduated to a place where you understand that your response isn't required for every accusation. Silence is strength because it forces you to master your emotions. It makes you pause instead of react. It teaches you how to listen, how to observe, how to discern the difference between something that needs your voice and something that only wants your attention. And let me tell you, most things that want your attention don't deserve it. Distractions often come dressed as opportunities to prove yourself. But proving yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you is like trying to fill a cup with no bottom. You'll pour out everything you have and still be left empty. There will be moments where your flesh wants to rise up, where you want to clap back, where you want to put someone in their place. And if you're not careful, you'll win the argument, but lose your peace. You'll win the fight, but lose your focus. The enemy doesn't always attack you by trying to destroy you. Sometimes he tries to detour you, and nothing detours you faster than emotional battles that don't matter in the grand scheme of your purpose. I've learned that silence speaks in ways words never can. It says, I'm not moved by your opinion. It says, I know who I am and I don't need your validation. It says, you can throw stones, but I will not throw them back because my hands are too busy building. That's what wisdom looks like. It's not about having the sharpest comeback. It's about knowing when to keep your mouth closed so your spirit stays open. People who are truly confident don't have to announce it every 5 minutes. They walk in rooms quietly, but the weight of their presence speaks volumes. That's the kind of strength silence builds in you. It teaches you to rely less on proving who you are and more on simply being who you are. The people who are meant to see it will see it, and the ones who don't were never meant to matter in your story. You see, silence is not about hiding. It's about choosing the higher road. It's about understanding that everything doesn't require your engagement, your explanation, or your energy. And when you master that, you become unshakable. You become the kind of person who doesn't just survive storms. You stand still in them, knowing that the wind can roar and the waves can crash, but they will not move you from the place God has planted you. So if they talk, let them talk. If they judge, let them judge. If they misunderstand, let them misunderstand. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to fight it. Because silence, when rooted in wisdom, will always speak louder than noise. There is a certain kind of power in keeping some parts of your life sacred, in not feeling the need to put everything you're working on everything you're dreaming about, and everything you're healing from out on display. We live in a world where people measure their progress by how many people notice it, where every move has to be posted, every blessing has to be announced, and every goal has to be broadcast. But growth doesn't always need a spotlight. Some of the most important transformations happen in the dark, in quiet rooms where no one is clapping for you and no one is watching. When you're in a season of true growth, it's like planting a seed. You don't see the roots as they're forming beneath the soil. You don't stand over it and shout about it every day. You water it, you nurture it, you give it what it needs, and you trust the process. And when it finally breaks through the ground, it's not because it needed attention. It's because it was ready. The same is true for you. There are some seasons where God is building something in you that is not ready for public consumption. There are lessons, breakthroughs, and healing moments that need to be nurtured away from the opinions, judgments, and even the praises of others. See, the danger in announcing too soon is that you invite voices into a process that isn't finished yet. People will try to influence it, question it, or speak doubt into it before it has a chance to take shape. They'll want updates. They'll expect progress on their timeline. And if you slow down, they'll think you've failed. But they can only think that if you let them into something that was never meant for them to see in the first place. Privacy protects progress. It gives you room to make mistakes without an audience, to fail and try again without feeling like the world is keeping score. And it's not just about protecting your plans, it's about protecting your peace. Because the moment you share something, you open it up to other people's energy. Some will genuinely celebrate you, but others will try to plant seeds of doubt, intentionally or not. They'll compare your journey to theirs. They'll question your pace. They'll wonder if you're aiming too high or too low. And if you're not careful, you'll start adjusting your focus to meet expectations that don't even belong to you. That's how people lose themselves, not because they didn't have vision, but because they let too many hands shape what was only meant for them and God to build. There's a beauty in being misunderstood for a season. There's power in people underestimating you because they have no idea what you're working on. While they think you're standing still, you're actually building momentum. While they think you're quiet, you're actually strategizing. While they think nothing's happening, everything is happening. But it's happening in private, where distractions can't reach you. Sometimes the greatest revenge against doubt, against criticism, against the memory of who you used to be, is to quietly outgrow it, to let the work speak for itself when the time is right. You don't have to announce every victory. Some victories are sweeter when no one even knows you were fighting. You don't have to post every moment of progress. Some progress feels richer when it's yours alone. I had to learn that just because God shows you the vision doesn't mean he told you to share it. There's a difference between a testimony and a blueprint. Testimonies inspire, but blueprints are instructions. You don't give everyone your instructions because not everyone is meant to build with you. Some are only meant to watch when it's done, and there's nothing wrong with that. Privacy doesn't mean secrecy. Secrecy hides from fear, but privacy protects from noise. Privacy says, I'm not hiding this because I'm ashamed. I'm holding it close because it's still forming. And when you operate from that place, you give yourself the freedom to grow without the pressure of performance. So don't be afraid to disappear for a while. Don't be afraid to let the world think you've gone quiet. Because the truth is, the most meaningful growth often happens when nobody is watching, and the most powerful moments are born in rooms where only you and God are present. And when it's time for the world to see it, they won't just see what you've done. They'll see who you've become. Distractions are sneaky. They don't always come looking like chaos. Sometimes they show up disguised as concern, curiosity, or even opportunity. And before you know it, you've shifted your eyes off your own lane and started glancing at what everybody else is doing, saying, or thinking. That's how noise works. It doesn't just surround you, it seeps in. And when it gets inside, it pulls your focus away from the very thing you were called to build. That's why staying locked in on your purpose is not just about discipline. It's about learning to silence everything that doesn't serve where you're going. It's easy to get caught up in the noise of comparison. You start scrolling through what other people are posting, seeing how far along they seem to be, how polished their journey looks, how quickly they seem to be getting results. And without even realizing it, you start questioning yourself. You start thinking maybe you're behind. Maybe you need to move faster. Maybe you're doing it wrong. But the truth is, what you're comparing yourself to is only a fraction of the real picture. People rarely show their full struggle, yet here you are, measuring your behind the scenes against someone else's highlight reel. That's a recipe for discouragement and distraction. Then there's the noise of criticism. Sometimes it's loud, right in your face. And sometimes it's subtle, a side comment, a doubtful look, a question that makes you second guess everything. If you give too much weight to those voices, you'll spend more time trying to prove them wrong than actually pursuing what you were made to do. And that's the trap, because even if you win by proving them wrong, you've still lost time, energy, and focus in the process. The most dangerous thing noise can do is not stop you, but slow you down until you're to keep going. But here's the thing about focus. It's not just a decision you make once. It's a choice you have to renew daily. You have to wake up and say, I'm not chasing their pace. I'm moving in my own rhythm. You have to remind yourself, my lane is mine, and I will not abandon it to run someone else's race. Because if you let your ears be filled with noise, you'll miss the sound of God's direction. And his voice is never in the chaos. It's in the stillness, the quiet, the moments where you tune out the world long enough to hear him clearly. The enemy loves to use noise to drain you. He'll distract you with gossip, with comparison, with doubts, with conversations you shouldn't even be in. He'll tempt you to argue with people who aren't even walking in your purpose. And by the time you're done explaining yourself, you've lost the energy you needed for the work you were supposed to do. But when you keep your focus, when you decide to let go of the need to answer every critic or match every competitor, you step into a kind of strength that's unshakable. You stop letting the outside world dictate the pace of your growth. I've had to learn that not all movement is progress. You can be busy reacting to noise and still be standing still in purpose. And sometimes silence isn't about shutting out what's bad. It's about making space for what's good. It's about having room to think, to plan, to hear, to create without being bombarded by 1,000 opinions that have nothing to do with your calling. Focus is not about obsessing over one thing. It's about intentionally ignoring everything else that pulls you away from that one thing. You'll know you found real focus when you stop feeling the need to broadcast it. You'll stop telling everyone what you're working on just to prove you're doing something. And you'll start working so deeply in your lane that the results speak for themselves. That's the beauty of silence. It protects your focus. And when your focus is protected, your growth is inevitable. So drown out the noise. Unplug from the voices that distract you. Stay in your lane so deeply that you forget to glance at the one next to you. Because the moment you stop letting the noise dictate your direction, you'll realize you were never behind. You were just distracted. Healing is such a personal journey, and yet we often invite too many people into it. We feel the need to explain where we're at, why we're feeling the way we do, and what we're doing to get better. But the truth is, some wounds heal faster when they aren't handled by multiple hands. Some breakthroughs come quicker when they're not under the constant inspection of others. There's a quietness that healing requires. A stillness where your spirit can rest, your mind can breathe, and your heart can repair without interruption. When you're in that process, it's not always pretty. Healing isn't just about smiling after the storm. It's about sitting with the hurt, sorting through the mess, and facing the things you didn't want to face. And if you try to do all of that in the public eye, you'll start performing your healing instead of actually living it. You'll dress it up so people think you're further along than you are. You'll post the "I'm fine" moments while hiding the "I can't get out of bed" ones. And that's dangerous because it turns something sacred into something performative. Privacy gives you permission to be real with yourself. It gives you the space to break without feeling like you're on display. It allows you to cry as long as you need to pray as loud as you want to take steps forward and backward without someone keeping score. And most importantly, it removes the pressure to heal on anyone else's timeline. Healing can't be rushed. It doesn't happen just because the calendar flipped or because someone told you it's time to move on. It happens when your heart is ready, when your soul has released what it's been carrying, and when you've learned the lessons that pain came to teach you. But when you make your healing public too soon, you open yourself to voices that aren't always helpful. Some will genuinely want to see you get better, but others will offer advice that isn't rooted in your truth. They'll give you timelines, solutions, and steps that don't match your situation. And if you're not careful, you'll start measuring your progress by someone else's idea of what better should look like. Healing isn't a race, it's a rebuilding. And rebuilding takes time, patience, and a whole lot of silence. There's something sacred about those quiet seasons where nobody really knows what's going on with you. They might notice you're not as present. They might wonder why you're moving differently, but they can't put their finger on it. That's because all the work is happening inside, where the world can't see, where you can't be influenced, where you can take your time without apology. And in that hidden place, God does some of his best work. He restores, he strengthens, he rewires the parts of you that pain tried to break. It's in those private spaces that you can face the truth without the need to sugarcoat it. You can admit you're still hurting without fearing someone will use it against you. You can acknowledge that you haven't forgiven yet, that you're still wrestling with anger, that you're still struggling to trust, and you can do that without shame. That honesty is what real healing is built on. And when the time comes to step back into the world, you'll find that you're not the same person you were before. You won't just be patched up, you'll be rebuilt. You'll walk with a different kind of strength, one that doesn't need to explain itself. And the best part is you won't have to prove to anyone that you've healed. They'll see it in how you move, how you speak, and how you live. Some people won't understand why you pulled back. They'll wonder why you stopped sharing so much, why you became harder to reach, why you chose quiet over company. But that's okay. Not everyone is meant to understand the season you're in. Healing isn't for their understanding. It's for your wholeness. So don't feel guilty for going quiet. Don't feel bad for taking your time. Don't feel the need to explain every step you take toward becoming whole again. Because the best healing often happens in silence. And when you reemerge, your peace will be loud enough for the world to hear without you saying a single word. One of the hardest lessons to learn is that you don't have to respond to everything that comes your way. There is freedom in realizing that every battle is not your battle and every attack is not worth energy. The moment you stop feeling the need to defend yourself in every situation, you step into a new level of peace that arguments can't touch. It's not that you can't speak up. It's that you've learned your voice is too valuable to waste on things that will not matter in the long run. We've been conditioned to think silence means defeat, as if not responding means you're agreeing with whatever is being said. But the truth is, silence is often the most powerful response you can give. Because when you refuse to react, you keep control. The person or the situation doesn't get to pull you into a space you don't belong in. You don't get tangled up in drama. You don't get pulled off course. And you don't let someone else's noise dictate your next move. The enemy loves to bait you into battles that are beneath you. He knows if he can get you to waste your energy defending yourself against things that don't matter, you'll have less strength for the things that do. And it's not just the big conflicts. It's the little jabs, the subtle comments, the passive aggressive remarks that can slowly drain you if you're not careful. But when you choose silence, you send a clear message. You don't get access to my peace. It takes maturity to understand that not every wrong needs to be made right by you. There are things that will straighten themselves out in time, and there are things that only God can handle. You have to trust that truth doesn't need you to constantly fight for it. It has a way of revealing itself without your help. And when you learn to step back, you find out just how many things can resolve themselves when you stop feeding them your attention. The need to respond is often rooted in the need to be understood. We want to explain ourselves so people will see our side, our intentions, our heart. But here's the reality. Some people don't want to understand you. They're not looking for clarity. They're looking for conflict. No amount of explanation will change their mind because their goal was never to hear you. It was to rattle you. That's why you have to get comfortable with being misunderstood. If you can't handle that, you'll spend your life explaining yourself to people who aren't even listening. And it's not just about conflict with others. Sometimes the battle is with your own pride. Pride wants the last word. Pride wants to prove a point. Pride wants to show that you won't be walked over, but wisdom knows when to walk away. Wisdom knows that proving yourself in the wrong place can cost you more than keeping quiet ever would. There's a certain strength that comes from not needing to win every fight. You learn that victory isn't always about winning the argument. It's about protecting your spirit. Choosing your battles doesn't make you weak. It makes you strategic. A soldier doesn't fight every single skirmish. He saves his strength for the war that matters. In the same way, you have to decide what's worth your time, your words, your energy. And when you get good at that, you start noticing that your life feels lighter. You're no longer weighed down by every misunderstanding, every rumor, every opinion. You're too focused on the future to get stuck in the pettiness of the present. The most dangerous battles are the ones that distract you from your assignment. They seem urgent in the moment, but when you look back, you realize they didn't move your life forward at all. That's why silence can be such a powerful weapon. It keeps you from being lured into fights that aren't aligned with your purpose. And when people can't bait you into responding, they lose their power over you. So let them talk. Let them assume. Let them tell their version of the story. You don't have to correct them. You don't have to clear it up. And you don't have to prove them wrong. Because at the end of the day, the truth has a way of outlasting every lie, and your peace is far too expensive to spend on every passing battle. There's a certain beauty in letting your work speak for itself. In a world where people feel the need to prove who they are with their words, there is something powerful about showing up so consistently, so excellently, so intentionally that you don't have to say a thing. Your life does the talking for you. You don't have to convince people of your value. They see it in how you carry yourself, in the quality of what you produce, in the way you keep showing up even when no one is clapping. The problem is we often spend more time talking about what we're going to do than actually doing it. We make announcements, we set expectations, and then we feel the pressure to perform just to match the words we've already put out there. But when you keep your head down and focus on building, you free yourself from the weight of public timelines. You stop feeling like you have to move at the speed of other people's expectations, and you start moving at the pace that allows you to do things with excellence. Results are hard to argue with. People can doubt your intentions. They can question your motives. They can misunderstand your silence. But when the fruit shows up, it speaks in ways explanations never could. A healed life is louder than any argument. A strong, healthy relationship is louder than any defense you could give against gossip. A thriving business is louder than any rebuttal you could type. Results make their own statement, and they don't need your commentary to be believable. And here's the thing, results don't always show up overnight. They're the product of patience, persistence, and faithfulness. It's the hours you put in when nobody's watching, the discipline you practice when nobody's applauding, the decisions you make behind closed doors that shape the life you eventually present to the world. That's why it's so important to keep your focus on the work itself and not the applause. If you live for the applause, you'll die by the criticism. But if you live for purpose, the noise, good or bad, loses its power over you. When you focus on results instead of recognition, you stop chasing validation. You stop working to be seen and start working to make an impact. And the funny thing is, that's usually when people start noticing you. Not because you demanded their attention, but because excellence is magnetic. People can't help but take note of someone who consistently delivers, who grows without bragging, who rises without pushing others down. It's tempting to want to explain yourself along the way, to give updates so people know you're doing something. But there's a quiet confidence that comes from trusting that your work will reveal itself in time. You don't have to rush the reveal just to satisfy curiosity. You don't have to let people into your process just to prove you're making progress. You just keep showing up, keep doing the work, and when the time is right, the results will speak so loudly that no one will be able to deny what's been happening in the dark. There will always be people who underestimate you. They'll mistake your silence for inaction, your humility for weakness, your patience for lack of ambition. Let them, because every minute you spend trying to convince them otherwise is a minute you could be using to keep building. When you finally unveil what you've been working on, the same people who doubted you will have no choice but to acknowledge it. And even then, you don't have to say, "I told you so." The work will say it for you. Living this way requires discipline. It means you can't be reactive to every opinion or distracted by every opportunity to prove yourself. It means trusting the process enough to know that the payoff will be worth the wait. And it means remembering that at the end of the day, you're not building for their approval. You're building for your purpose. So let your life be the loudest thing in the room. Let your growth speak for itself. Let your results be so undeniable that you never have to defend who you are or what you've been called to do. Because when the evidence is standing right in front of them, words won't even be necessary.